on this computer. Okay. All right. Thank you so much, everyone, for your attention. And now I'm going to relinquish the lectern to Maurice Heidelberg, who is a veteran Toastmaster who will be guiding us through the important proceedings for tonight's meeting. Let's give him a big round of applause as he guides us tonight.
All right. Thank you, Diego. We have, I'm sure we've just filled the roles, even though I can't get on Easy Speak right now. We have 2 prepared speeches. We have 2 speech evaluators and a general evaluator. Who is the, well, I think Diego uploaded the agenda, so I'll just pull the agenda from the.
Yes, let me know if you don't see it.
Okay, I see it. Let me. Agenda. Okay. So our general evaluator for tonight will be Diego. Can you just give a brief description of the general evaluator?
Yes, Maurice, I'd be happy to. Hello, everyone. This is Diego. I will be serving as the general evaluator tonight. The role of the general evaluator is to guide the evaluation portion of our meeting. So our kind volunteers who have developed a prepared speech with a message to be shared with everyone tonight, it is my job to invite the evaluators forward to share important feedback and learning opportunities for everyone involved in tonight's meeting. Thank you, Maurice.
Right. Now our timer for tonight will be Carrie.
Hello, everyone. I look so pale in Zoom, but I'm okay. Anyway, tonight's role, my role is to be a timer. And then for prepared speech, I brought this colorful police piece. And for prepared speech, you see green at 5 minutes and yellow at 6 minutes, red at 7 minutes. And table topic, you see green at one minute, right? Okay, 1 minute.
Yes.
And
yes.
Yellow at 1:30.
Yes, correct. That's
and red is, okay. And then 2 minutes at red. Also red at 2 minutes. And for the evaluation part, you see green at 2 minutes, and then yellow at 2 minutes and 30 seconds, and 3 minutes, the red at 3 minutes. Thank you.
all right. Thank you, Carrie. Our all counter for tonight will be Sean.
Hello, Toastmasters. I will be the counter for tonight, and I'll be looking for filler words such as so, and keeping track of that.
Thank you. And our grammarian for tonight will be Peter.
Good evening. Is today's word, do I talk about today's word right now, or?
Oh, yes, you can.
Okay, great. So today's word is chock-a-block. It's an adjective, means brought close together or very full. An example would be the used bookstore's shelves were chock-a-block with books.
All right. And our table topics master for tonight will be David.
Hi, everyone. I'm David. I will be your table topics master for this evening. What I'll be doing is asking for volunteers, and for each volunteer, I'll ask a random question from these list of cards I have, which have some interesting questions on them. So this will be a good opportunity to practice ad-lib speaking without being able to prepare in advance. So it's a great way to work on your speech skills. Thank you.
All right, thank you, David. And I believe that covers the roles for tonight. And before we move on to our first speaker for tonight, I would just like to welcome our area director, Brandon O'Brien, who's tuned in. Now,
Hey, Brandon, thanks for coming.
yes. Now for our first speaker for tonight. He has been a Toastmaster for, I guess, a better portion of a year. I mean, if not a full year, but he is progressing nicely. And I believe he has, if I'm not mistaken, he's completed level 1 and he's on his second speech on level 2 under dynamic leadership, understanding your communication style. And the title of his speech is Now I Understand. But can you teach an old dog new tricks? Our first prepared speech for tonight will be David.
Thank you, Maurice. Good evening. This is level 2 of the dynamic leadership pathway. Understanding my communication style. Now I understand, but can you teach an old dog new tricks? Toastmasters lists 4 communication styles in the module that I completed. And it was really an eye-opener for me. There are 2 of the 4 styles that I really prefer. The other 2 I don't go to at all. And I learned, though, that it's important to incorporate all 4 styles in my communication. So I'm going to share with you now. What I did was I completed an online questionnaire, and based on my answers, I was assigned a score for each of the 4 styles. So I'm going to swing my handy little chart in, if you can see this. David Roberts, communication styles. I got high scores in supportive and analytical, and low scores in direct and initiating. And this really does reflect my personality and my communication styles in life. Supportive and analytical is where I really strive. A good example is my working career. I worked for 30 years for the Alabama Department of Transportation. Reason for this. Supportive Toastmasters lists as calm, steady, approachable, sincere, gentle. Analytical is precise, exact, analytical, and logical. And that really describes me. A good example was, as a civil engineer, say there was a drainage problem in a specific area. We design roadways, we would widen roadways and whatnot, and sometimes land would flood, or there'd be a flooding problem, and the landowner would say it's our fault for our roadway work caused it. So the supervisors would come to me, and I was really good at staying calm, asking questions, and having a logical approach. I would take all the information, I would go out on the internet and find aerial imagery, find surface data, which is like 3-dimensional models of the land. I would research our old plan sets. I would even go out and talk to the landowners to try to get a better feel for what the problem was. And if need be, I would ask our survey crew to go out and get additional data. I would take all that information and I would put it in our CAD software in layers, one on top of the other. And then I would look at it and just come up with a logical answer for why things were happening. And what I found often, or almost always, is nothing's ever black and white. The world is shades of gray. There's just numerous things that can contribute to a problem. And when I keep an open mind and just keep that supportive and analytical communication style, it really works. I can really solve problems that way. And being easygoing and easy to talk to, it really worked great at work. So, and it gave me a great sense of joy and satisfaction, a sense of belonging. So you might think, well, why do I even need the other two at all? Direct and initiating. Toastmasters calls direct decisive, competitive, independent, confident. And initiating is sociable, enthusiastic, energetic, spontaneous, fun-loving. Those are not me. And I have seen my supervisors that do have this communication style, and it really works. And at times it's critical, because the problem with being just supportive and analytical is another word for that is almost perfectionism. Before I solve a problem, I have to have every piece of the puzzle. I can't make a decision. And it comes down really, when I did some soul searching after doing this module, to my past. I was most of my life a chronically shy person, and I always had this feeling that I'm not good enough. I have this fear of being judged. So having a direct communication style was just, I was afraid of what people would think of me perhaps. And initiating, just fun-loving, spontaneous is not something that's just ever come natural to me. But in reflecting upon this, I realized it has really cost me. It's cost me in anxiety and suffering and relationships and even promotions. I think I was the only person in the history of the Alabama Department of Transportation to turn down a promotion. And looking back on it, I'm not sure what I told myself at the time, but it really comes down to, I knew that if I took the promotion, I would have to adopt a direct and initiating communication style at times. And it just wasn't something I was willing to do. And that's one of the reasons I joined Toastmasters, to try to become something better, make better of myself. And I realized that all 4 of these communication styles are important. And I need to balance them. I need to use the ones to get out of my comfort zone and be direct and initiating at times. It's not an easy thing to do, and that comes back to the subtitle of my speech. Can you teach an old dog new tricks? I'm not that old. I'm 56 now, but I am an adult, and as an adult, change isn't always easy, especially this kind of change. But I do realize now, with the progress that I've already made, that it is possible. And with the help of my fellow Toastmasters and my friends and the people in my life, I know that I will get there. Mr. Toastmaster.
Thank you, David, for that speech. Now we'll move on to the second prepared speech. And this speech will be done by myself, Maurice Heidelberg, and it's coming out of the Advanced Communicator book called The Entertaining Speaker. And it's project number 2, Resources for Entertainment. And the title of the speech is All the Difference in the World. So at this time, the second speech will be by me, Maurice Heidelberg. Fellow Toastmasters and honored guests, every Sunday morning, I would take a light jog around the park near my home. There's a lake located in one corner of the park. Each time I jog by this lake, I see the same elderly lady sitting at the water's edge with a small metal cage sitting beside her. Well, this past Sunday, my curiosity got the best of me. So I stopped jogging and I walked over to her. As I got closer, I realized that the metal cage was in fact a small trap. There were 3 turtles, so the small trap was chock-a-block with turtles. But they were unharmed and slowly walked around the bottom of the trap. She had a 4th turtle in her lap. that she was carefully scrubbing with a spongy brush. "Hello," I said. "I see you here every Sunday morning. If you don't mind my nosiness, I'd love to know what you're doing with these turtles." She smiled and said, "I'm cleaning off their shells. Anything on the turtle's shell, like algae or scum, reduces the turtle's ability to absorb heat and impedes its ability to swim. And it also corrode and weaken the shell over time." "Wow, that's really nice of you," I exclaimed. She went on and said, "I spend a couple hours each Sunday morning relaxing by this lake and helping these little guys out. It's my own strange way of making a difference." Then I said, "But don't most freshwater turtles live their whole lives with algae and scum hanging from their shells?" "Yep, sadly they do," she replied. I scratched my head. "Well then, don't you think your time could be better spent? I mean, I think your efforts are kind and all, but there are freshwater turtles living in lakes all around the world. And 99% of these turtles don't have kind people like you to help them clean off their shells. So no offense, but how exactly are your localized efforts here truly making a difference?" The woman giggled aloud. She then looked down at the turtle in her lap, scrubbed off the last piece of algae from its shell, and said, "Sweetie, if this guy could talk, he'd tell you I just made all the difference in the world." So the moral is you can change the world, maybe not all at once, but one person, one animal, one good deed at a time. Wake up every morning and pretend like what you do makes a difference. It does. And I'd like to extend the moral of this meeting, all the difference in the world, or you could change the world by saying that you could be the difference, perhaps, between a person committing suicide or not. You might just appear at the right place at the right time. Even though you may not feel like you're doing something, you could be that difference maker in someone's life. Also, you could be a difference maker. Let's say a dog is starving to death and you just straggle along with a piece of food. You can also be a difference maker to that dog and save that dog's life by giving him that piece of food that he needs to keep him from starving. So again, you could change the world, not all at once, but you could be that difference maker in someone's life. So you could change the world for that one person or that one animal. And I will relinquish the lectern back to the Toastmaster, who is myself. Okay, we are moving into our table topics portion of the meeting, and our table topics master for tonight is David.
Hi again, everyone. I am your table topics master for this evening. And I welcome and I'm glad everybody's here on Zoom and able to join us. So what I've done is I have a box from, you can see it here. It's called Storywise. It was published by the Assisted Living Home Atria. And it's a list of cards that have topics for elderly people or people with dementia to discuss. And when they gave this to me and some of my relatives, because we had a relative at Atria, I found that it's not just good for them, it's really great for conversation topics or just for something like table topics. So I've got a list. I picked out a few cards from here, and I'm going to ask for a volunteer, and I'll read the first question, and you'll have 1 to 2 minutes to give an impromptu answer. So does anybody, would anybody like to volunteer?
I'd like to volunteer.
All right, Diego. The first question is this. Which objects would you save from your home if it were on fire?
My fellow Toastmasters, area director, and other guests who are here in spirit, the question that David has asked me is to explain what items I would save if my house were on fire. Now, as I look around my house or at least my room, that is chock-a-block full of things from my childhood, honestly, I think the first thing I would grab are my computers, because there is this situation has really communicated the importance and how thankful we should be for having access to these types of these pieces of equipment, because I can't imagine how there are people who don't have a capacity to work from home. They don't have access to being able to work by following social distancing guidelines. I think this situation that we're all in has really communicated to me just how important computers are, and those would definitely be the first things that I would grab in case of a fire. I know that my house is chock-a-block full of other things that I find very sentimental, but I'm a kind of hopefully by now I've communicated to you all that I'm pretty not rational, but I'm a pretty by the books kind of person, and I'm all about utility and grabbing things that I know are really important to me. Sentimental value kind of has to be put to the wayside in emergencies like that. That was a very great question, Table Topics Master Roberts, and I'm going to relinquish the lectern back to you. Thank you.
Thank you, Diego. That was an interesting answer. I think we've all learned how important it is to stay together, how important human communication is, and in the absence of physical contact, technology does come a great way to solving that gap. So I can understand your desire to save your technology. So I have another question. Do I have another volunteer?
Hi, David. I can go next.
Okay, great, Abdul. This question is, what would you give the title of your memoir, your life story, if you had to give it a title? What would it be and why?
Hello, Toastmasters honored guest. The question I've been asked is, what name would you give to your life? Or if you were to say like a one sentence for your life, what would you say? How would you describe it? So to answer that, I would think like the work we have done to stay here, to stay on top of things. I think the first thing comes to my mind is I would say hardworking and hardworking. So that could be like one of the word that I picked for myself. Depending on different scenarios we are in, as adjusting yourself to work from home kind of scenario, or be it working with the kids with their school from home scenario. So yeah, we are all being in unique situations here, and we are all working together with our teams we are in. So I think everyone is in the situation working towards left and right to get the things right, and this is what I think I'm in the same boat as you are, and working hard to make things happen. Back to you, Tabletop Master.
Thank you, Abdul. I think that was a good answer. And you do always strike me as hardworking. I'm amazed at the progress you've made since I've known you in Toastmasters. It's really been impressive. And you're always volunteering and never turn down a role. So that's really great. So I've got another question. Do I have another volunteer? Peter has raised his hand.
I think Brandon raised his hand too.
Okay. We can do, we'll do.
Give me next after Peter. That's
Okay,
fine.
Peter and then Brandon.
I'm sure David's got a box of questions.
There we go. For Peter, the question is, what is your favorite guilty pleasure?
Okay, good evening, fellow Toastmasters and honored guests. My favorite guilty pleasure probably sounds very cliche, but eating chocolate. Chocolate is one of those types of foods that you can tell yourself to eat just a little bit, and you eat that little piece, and then maybe 30 seconds later or 15 seconds later, you said, I'll have another little piece, just a little piece. And then you may return 5 minutes later and have a third little piece. And before you know it, a quarter or half of whatever was there was gone pretty quickly. And you've just eaten a chocolate block full of chocolate pieces. And the ironic thing is, eating that chocolate within a few seconds or a few minutes equates to many hours of having to work it off because all that excess calories.
Thank you, Peter.
Thank you.
That was a really good answer. I think we can all relate to food as being a guilty pleasure. I was so relieved when they came out with some health studies that said dark chocolate is healthy. So then now when I eat dark chocolate, I can feel like, well, I'm doing it for my health. But you have a very good point, and it does take a good bit of exercise to work it out. So I think we have time for one more, and Mr. O'Brien has raised his hand. So I will read the final question to Mr. O'Brien. What is something that you know today that you wish you could tell your past self?
Well, thank you, Mr. Toastmasters. Thanks, club officers and club members. It's great to be here today. Looking forward to seeing some new faces and hearing some new voices. For me, I guess the biggest thing would be right now, wouldn't you want to tell your past about the coronavirus? I mean, so you can prepare better? I mean, goodness gracious, how much has this affected not only us, our state, our country, the world? I think I saw today that we're getting ready to pass almost 1 million people have coronavirus right now. It's pretty amazing to think how a pandemic virus has affected the whole world. I feel like I'm watching some kind of a movie instead of being in real life. So things have totally changed for the good and the worse. And I think we're going to get some good out of this besides all the bad. I know the economy's down, unemployment's up, but I think we're going to come up with some other good ideas to help do this. I mean, look how fast we've developed and made more medicine, more products, more this, more that. There's so many things. It's got to be positive. I'm a very positive person. I'm never want to be down about things, but I think we're going to learn something from bad. I mean, even when we have hurricanes and tornadoes, we learn things from those epic failures. I mean, 9/11 was a big failure, but we improved things after that, So I think we're going to improve ourselves, our lives, our businesses, our colleges from this, because we're going to have to adapt to new things to help get past this. So hopefully this will come out to be a positive things. Thank you, Mr. Toastmaster.
Thank you, Mr. O'Brien. And welcome to our meeting this evening. We're very happy to have you. I think I can relate to that. One thing I heard before a musician said in developing her music is the worst things that have ever happened in her life have allowed her to create some of her very best music. And I think that also could be looked at, like you talked about with 911 and with the coronavirus and hurricanes. Sometimes the worst things can end up bringing out the best in us, and our best selves can come out. So I believe we're about out of time for table topics. So I thank everyone for participating. I think this has been a very good meeting, and I'll relinquish the lecture to our to our Toastmaster, Maurice.
All right, thank you, David. Now we're at the evaluation portion of the meeting, and our general evaluator for tonight is Diego.
Thank you, Maurice. Thank you. A big thank you goes out to our members tonight who put in time and effort to develop an important prepared speech, a learning opportunity, and an important message for everyone participating in our Zoom meeting tonight. I have the, oh yes, we will do evaluations first of the prepared speeches, then we'll go over the other roles, and then I will return the lectern back to our Toastmaster. I had the pleasure of serving as David's evaluator for his important speech tonight, and I'll go ahead and share a few comments that I'd like to point out for him. David, it was very great to see you use that leadership, that communication style prop. That was very creative, and definitely I think it got everyone's attention in the room. Really showed that you were going above and beyond with incorporating visual media to support what message and what topic you want the audience to reflect on tonight. I think that's a very captivating way to capture the audience and to really show that you really put in a lot of effort in this message, and that we should be really receptive and listen and think about what message you wanted to share with us tonight. So that was very impressive. That was definitely a top tier move that I was definitely caught off guard and really impressed by. So keep up that creative thinking outside of the box spirit. David, I want to challenge you in your next speech to incorporate more vocal variety into the next speech that you give, because I felt throughout tonight's speech, while it was very deep and very reflective, I felt that the level of excitement in your voice wasn't matching that. So I think incorporating some vocal variety into your next speech will really make that message very captivating and something that will resonate with the audience a lot. The benefit of you maintaining rather a monotone level of speech tonight is that you were very clear in enunciation. You spoke at a very good vocal velocity throughout the speech. There was no ambiguity in the way that you spoke tonight, and that is very great. It is very good to see that you are not scared to speak slowly and clearly throughout the speech. You are not letting nerves or getting nervous about having the spotlight on you make you sacrifice speaking clearly throughout the time that you have the lecture and the time that you have the audience attention. That's a really great sign, showing that you are getting more and more comfortable with doing public speaking, which is really great to see. And a great example for everyone tonight. Let's see what other comments I want to mention. Yes, I think that really boils it down to tonight. David, you do a great job of speaking clearly to the audience, not getting nervous. But I think the next step that I want to challenge you with is incorporating more vocal variety. You don't sacrifice the clarity and the enunciation and the level of care you have with the words that you want to say with everyone, but I think more vocal variety will really captivate more of the audience for the next speech that you give. So I think that's going to be a great challenge that you will meet with the next speech that you deliver. Okay, that wraps up my major comments for David's speech tonight. And now I want to welcome up to the lectern Majid is doing the evaluation for Maurice. So let's give him our full attention tonight, folks. Thank you.
Hello, how is everyone? So I got this opportunity to evaluate Maurice, our veteran Toastmaster. And fortunately enough, I got my second opportunity to evaluate Maurice, and it was always a fun and learning experience. As a evaluator, you pay close attention now, and especially to Maurice's speech is always fun and learning for me as well. And I'd like to mention a good point that with this situations going on, I like that Maurice picked up a light subject, and like mine was a little heavy last time I did, but for a change of thing, it was a good moral and all the difference in the word, but the way he explained it, geographically pointing where the park is, jogging, and the gestures he used, especially I think these are more carved towards the web kind of atmosphere we are in, to carve your gestures. So walking Sunday morning, so that was, I liked it the way you presented it, and you kind of got our minds to think about the situation, like you started the first sentence you had. So I really liked that way you presented it, and also the curiosity level, then nosiness, and so nice of you, kind of the gestures that you had, like overreacting of the lady, but it all depicts like how much attraction you are adding to your speech. So I really liked it overall, and the difference and the moral of the story that you were able to aggregate all the thoughts, saying as an individual, what one difference can you make? You cannot make a big impact, but say a smaller impact, or where do you start for one step at a time? So it was very, very nice of that. So going to specifics, I think the clarity was awesome. I liked it overall. There was one time that you repeated the sentence, but overall the quality of the speech and the sentences was very, very good. Vocal variety, I think it's good. I think from last time that I evaluated to this time, we had you have grown in vocal variety, where you added some gestures and some tones to it. So I like that eye contacts and audience awareness. You're already an veteran in it. You excel in it. The gestures I see from last time to this time, they have gone up with this specific setup. I really liked it. Comfort level and interest, you were able to drag our interest to the specific topic. That was very good. And comfort level, you were at home. Applied feedback, I think that there was some overall improvement in the structure and the topic it was. So I like that overall. I think vocal variety is something we can challenge ourselves here to a little more tones to grab attention, asking questions in the middle. Some of these tricks that you have already used, but we can pull in some of the speech to make it more more attractive and have audience aware. So with the looking at the Cobra, my time for feedback is done, and I have already documented it. I'll share it with you, Maurice. I'll relinquish back to our general evaluator, Diego.
Thank you, Majid. Thank you for your important comments on Maurice's speech tonight. Let us continue now with the other roles that focus on evaluating other aspects and parts of our meeting tonight. Let us hear first from Peter. Peter's report on the grammarian responsibilities.
Thank you. First, David, the speech about can you teach an old dog new tricks? There was one sentence along the lines, I think it was my communication styles was the reason for this. So the number of was and styles, these are, notice that. And then there was a sentence where you said the reason for this is, and then you wanted to say a word for this is perfection. I don't know verbatim what that sentence was, but I think there was there's something grammatically not correct about it. I have to go back on the replay. Other than that, nothing else. Word of the day was not used during that speech. Good speech. Thank you. Maurice Heidelberg, the end of the speech, I think Abdul mentioned some repetition about the end point. I don't know if it was grammatically incorrect. I have to go back exactly to see, but it could have been concise to just the end point. And then the word chock-a-block was used well. Very nice speech. Diego, table topics. There's one, you correct me if I'm wrong, but there was one thing that said about I'm kind of pretty, and you were talking about characterizing yourself, and you said something kind of person. Does that ring a bell?
Yeah, I think I said something along the lines of like, I'm a rational, I don't think I'm a rational person. And then I used like another word
Yeah.
instead.
That was, I think maybe that sentence, I'm kind of pretty something like that, whatever that rational, and then you said kind of person, and maybe it was a sentence that had an interjection. You kind of came with a new different.
Yeah, that's the nerves kicking in.
Yeah, and you used the word chock-a-block, very well in your speech. Abdul, in the beginning, you say hardworking, and you're going to say something else, and then you said hardworking and hardworking. So it's kind of double. And then you said we are all being in unique situation. So you could just say we're all in this unique situation. So the being. David, there's a sentence where you said, but I think we'll come up with ideas to do this. And that's referring to the situation, the COVID situation, and how we can improve the situation from our learning experiences. But when you said this, it didn't refer, I guess, to the previous subject in the previous sentence didn't imply that what this was. So I guess if you go back on the tape, you can probably see what I'm talking about.
Okay.
Oh, I'm sorry. That's for Brandon. That's for Brandon.
Ah.
Yeah. I said Dave. I meant Brandon.
You picked a better looking guy anyway.
That's it for the grammarian.
Thank you, Peter, for evaluating and staying on track of everyone's use of the language, the English language. Let us now, let's hear from Carrie. Let's hear Carrie's timer report. Carrie?
Good evening again. I'm timer tonight. Do you?
Carrie, it seems that you're muted. Okay, now we're having some technical difficulties.
I apologize. Connection is not good tonight here. So let's do this again. Tonight I work as a timer. And do you hear me, by the way?
Yes, now
Okay.
we can hear you. Great.
Okay, great. So Diego, the table topic, 1 minute and 50 seconds. Evaluation, 3 minutes and 17 seconds. Maurice, 5 minutes and 15 seconds for your preparation speech. And Majid, your table topic, 1 minute and 20 seconds. Your evaluation, 3 minutes, 54 seconds. And Peter, your table topic, 1 minute and 8 seconds. David, your prepared speech, 6 minutes and 48 seconds. And Mr. O'Brien, your table topic, 1 minute and 37 seconds. Thank you.
Thank you, Carrie, for the timers report. So we have heard, we've heard grammarian, we've heard timer. Now we need to wrap things up with Sean, who's focused his attention on filler words and counter report. So let's hear from Sean.
Thank you, Diego. while we had some speeches that were chock full, chock-a-block with filler words, we had others that did hold out the filler words. So I will go through the different speeches and who's. So on the first speech, David had one one and one so. Maurice on his speech had none. Diego on the evaluation, general evaluator portion, you had none. Abdul Majid I had counted about 10 and then I kind of stopped counting, but there was a significant amount of filler words on that one. And then Peter had none on the table topic, and then Diego had none on the table topic, and then Majid answered I believe one of the last ones, and he had many uhs on that. And Brandon had 2 filler words, and on his table topic, and that is the counter report for tonight.
Thank you, Sean. I will now relinquish now that we've heard from all the important evaluation aspects of our meeting tonight, I'm going to relinquish the lectern back to Maurice, our Toastmaster.
All right, thank you, Diego. At this time, we have an awards presentation. And it's the level 1 completion under innovative planning. And our level 1 award goes to Sean. I don't know if he was able to download his certificate, but.
Thank you. How do I?
Oh, let me let you share screen. Okay, let's see. Make co-host. Okay, now you should be able to share screen. Do you see the green button at the middle?
Yep. Yes. I don't think that's it. That's not it.
Oh, wonderful. You have an evaluation.
There it is.
Oh, there we go. All right, let's
Yay.
give a round of applause to Sean.
Excellent work.
I made it.
You did it. That makes like 6 members have completed level 1, Maurice?
Yes.
Wow. Excellent work. Keep
And
up
then
the
we have 2 more who still haven't finished their.
Yes, Cheyenne and Olivia need to do it. We'll send them an email reminder.
Yes.
Great.
Well, at this time, I would like to relinquish the lectern back to the president.
Thank you, Maurice, and thank you everyone tonight for participating. I see it is 7:45, so we did a good job of staying on time. Thank you for everyone who was being mindful of the time limits and the recommended time periods. Since it is 7:45, I will not ask to fill out agenda rules, but please definitely look on Easy Speak between now and next week, just to double check if we have. Go ahead, Maurice.
At this time, there are no prepared speakers for next week.
Oh boy, okay.
Yes, it's myself and Diego in 2 weeks, and then Carrie in 3 weeks.
I see. Okay.
Yeah.
So everyone, there's a great opportunity, first come, first serve, to do another prepared speech next week. And once we have those speakers assigned, let us also make sure we have volunteers for first and second evaluators. Okay, folks, thank you all so much for coming, and we will see you. I will be sending out an email with the new Zoom meeting link now that this one will be over, and it will be set for another 4 weeks to represent the month of May. And you can also you will find that link on our Facebook as well. if you need.
Okay, Majid will take one for next week. I'll fill him in.
Say that again?
Majid volunteered for a role or for a speech.
Majid, we can't hear you.
You're muted.
Yes, sorry. I just IM'd him that if there's opportunity next week, I can grab one. So for
Okay,
next week,
okay.
but yeah, sure.
All right,
Oh,
so
wonderful.
we have one speech filled for next week.
Yeah, sure.
Excellent, Majid. We're looking forward to it. Great. Okay, folks, I don't want to hold y'all over. Y'all have more important responsibilities to take care of. We'll see you next week. Be mindful of your emails for Zoom meeting links and stuff. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Maurice,
Diego, and
a minute?
everyone.
Great work, everyone.
Maurice,
All right.
a minute?